Recording. And we're live. Hello and welcome to Pardon My Disruption. I am Alan Berkson, the Director of Community Outreach at Fresh Desk, and I'm joined as always by Dr. Disruptive, Jonathan Yarmus.
Welcome, Greetings, Alan.
We are broadcasting live from not so beautiful downtown Stamford, Connecticut.
Well, you know, it's not raining right now, so.
It's warm before the polar vortex.
Yes, before we get maybe snow in April. I guess given this winter, there's nothing really to complain about.
Nothing. No, there's always something to complain about. Somehow we still have tons of potholes.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose it would help my kids to feel, they're on a cruise ship right now, so, oh, the weather's terrible, kids. You are so lucky to not be here.
Right. Well, you always want it to be terrible weather where you're not.
Right.
It sort of validates.
Makes you feel better.
It validates your.
As long as the weather is nice a week from today, because the reason we are not doing this on our regular second Friday of the month is next Friday, well, sort of a national holiday.
It is a
regional.
It's not even a regional holiday. Remember, there's no zip code in the U.S. where there are more Met fans than any other fan.
Yeah. And it is next Friday, the Mets home opener, and for the how many year in a row?
This will be my 16th straight Mets home opener.
Yes, and for the first time in many of those 16 years, we actually have considerable reason for optimism this year.
We do.
Yes.
Although I got nervous.
Yeah, as long as Matt Harvey.
Did you see the SI cover?
Oh no, the SI jinx.
They had them all.
Is it? But sometimes they do these regional covers. Is this a national cover?
It may have been just for web. Who knows?
Okay.
Did you get the print edition of Sports Illustrated? Other than once a year.
The baseball preview issue.
Yes.
I actually, we'll get a kudo out of the way, or an app I love. There's the app called Texture, formerly known as Next Issue, where for about $15 a month, it gives you full digital versions of a whole bunch of magazines and ones you want to read: Fortune and Forbes and Business Week, Sports Illustrated. I get a number of car magazines there in New York and the New Yorker.
How much?
$15 a month. And it's an amazing value.
Now, but when was the last time you read a print edition of Sports Illustrated?
Other than at a doctor's office. Yeah.
So for all we know, there is no cover, and so therefore there's no jinx, so we're okay.
I guess so.
Solved. The gavel.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, the Stamford Innovation Center is in the former Stamford Town Hall, and we are sitting in the courtroom. Behind us, that image you see.
So you can see the foot of.
Yeah. The foot in the bottom of a robe
of justice.
Yes. And Alan has promised next month.
Next month.
Next May 13th.
Right. So we're here the second Friday. It's like so hard to remember.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
Hey, the second Friday of every month, our next show will be on May 13th. And we hope
Friday
to see
the 13th.
Friday, we do a lot of Friday the 13th shows.
Yes. As a matter of fact, every Friday the 13th.
As a matter of fact, we've had a discussion before.
So anyhow.
Anyhow.
Maybe we'll talk about technology.
Maybe we will talk. Well, here's the technology thing. So I have I have Fitbit. And yesterday I realized why I'm going to have a really hard time having a wearable. I got the Fitbit when it was cold out, so I've always worn it with sleeves. Yesterday, I wore it with a short sleeve shirt while I was walking in Manhattan, and I just banged my arm into a pole, and I scratched. But I don't know how I can never wear any wearable. It's going to smack the screen.
Well, there's one suggestion. Don't bang your arm into a pole.
But it happens.
Yeah. You're kind of Dr. Strangelove.
Something innocent, you never know if somebody will cut you off.
Well, actually, you can then use it as a weapon. This is a good thing.
Use my Fitbit as a weapon.
Yeah, the sharp edge, whatever it is.
Or whatever sharp edge
Yes.
occurs from having that is plastic, it just got scratched.
Hit yourself with the head with it. It'll leave an impact.
Yeah. All right. So
You could
today,
end up with CTE.
so today is let's see how clever we can be today. National, international. Let's see how clever we can be. And some people are clever, and some people.
And then some people do things that don't quite work out the way they're intended. Two recent examples. The New York Times published something that should have been released today and probably is in the hard copy paper today,
Right.
but it appeared online yesterday announcing that Stanford was not going to have a class of, I think, 2022 or 2020.
Right.
Yeah, because they were disrupting the world or whatever the reason was.
Well, they want to keep their acceptance rate so low that they're the most exclusive.
Yeah, so they're accepting no one for the class of 2020. Now, normally you'd think people realize this is ridiculous. However, the fact that it leaked online on March 31st rather than April 1st, I don't know about you, my Twitter feed exploded with, I can't believe they're doing this.
All of my peers, my friends, were all in that college, and all over Facebook was, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, and that's why, and I've seen there are people developing this. And the next killer app, and I will gladly give this idea away royalty free, is we need a Snopes button. That any story, or even more than a button, and I saw someone, I tried to find it this morning, but I couldn't. A truth blocker.
Or a Snopes filter.
Yeah, but I actually saw something where somebody's working on a browser plugin that when you read a web page, it will change the color of the background based on the veracity of the information on the page. So if it's true, you'll get a nice green background. If it's liar, liar, pants on fire, it'll be flaming red.
So for the most part, any political website is going to get burnt.
Well, that will, we won't get into too much politics, but that's one of the interesting things, and you may discount the independent nature of PolitiFact, but interestingly, they found that Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton were both way more truthful than any of the Republican candidates, and despite Hillary's reputation for shading the truth, her claims generally stood up reasonably well. But that's enough politics. As I said, disclaimer: consider the source. There are probably some whoppers buried in there.
But if you come out with whoever comes out with that Snopes, will certainly. If they put it up on GoFundMe or Kickstarter, I would definitely.
Yes,
that's worth a couple.
And if you don't know what Snopes.com is now, hit the pause button on the video replay. Go to the web now, and it is this amazing resource that looks at all of these.
It's been around a long time.
Oh yeah. I
mean, it was at the early days of the web. I remember.
I don't remember it that
long.
Really,
I think it goes back late 90s.
Does it?
2000. Yeah.
Okay. You could be right, but it's a fabulous wealth of information where they dig into the origins and truth of claims that are made. And for instance, when I had a couple of people asking me about this Stanford story, I Googled it, and of course the first thing that came up in the Google search was the Snopes page, and they already had, the whole debunking of it and the history of it.
But it's hard. There was an article I read in Quartz about a guy who had a module in GitHub and removed it.
Yes.
Now, was that true? I couldn't find a way to. I mean, he did a Medium post, so he talked about it. But
yeah, that wasn't GitHub. It was, what was it?
It was an NPM.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that where I saw it, and I saw it in multiple places, it was true. And what Alan's talking about, there are all of these repositories. So if you're a developer trying to do something, even a moderate, relatively sophisticated, very sophisticated developer, Facebook was using this routine. And there are these routines so that rather than you're having to invent everything from scratch, you can pull down a library and incorporate it in your program, and it's open source, royalty free, all of that good stuff. Well, one of the developers got into a bit of a tiff with this repository, and as I understand it, there was legal action involved. Yeah, there was legal action involved.
Right.
And he, in a fit of pique, withdrew his code from the repository. And everybody who relied on that piece of code, it's now calling an unavailable routine. And somebody slightly dramatically put it, but he broke the internet. Yeah. And the good news is it was replaced with something else, a functional workaround that presumably was defensible, so everybody started working again. But for a period of a couple of hours, just an innocent little, I'm pissed at you, I'm taking my code out of this library, broke thousands and thousands of websites that relied on this code repository.
But how many millions of dollars are being spent right now to figure out what other dependencies are out there that are just like this?
The answer is you don't want them. That's one of the things where when you know how the sausage is made, I have dark moments when I think we are going to end up back in the pre-internet days when all of this security, the underpinnings, there was something just recently, my favorite new word of the day, I'm even trying to remember the word, I put it down. Google dorking. Do you know what Google dorking is?
I don't even want to
and by the way, for a number of years in the 90s, I lived on Dorking Drive. Yeah. Several things about that. There were those people on the street who didn't like the name, thought it would sound more upscale if they pronounced it Dorking. No, yeah. Number two, dorking is actually a noun, not a verb.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know how many toes normal chickens have, whether it's 3 or 4, but a dorking has the other number of, yeah.
It's an animal.
Yes, but in this specific instance, Google dorking is basically, there are advanced filters. When you just search on Google, you're searching the entirety of the internet by default. There are ways you can restrict the search to look, say, at specific domains for specific kinds of content. And what this hacker did, and there's an amazing amount of stuff available open on the internet that you wouldn't think would or should be open on the internet. In this particular instance, there is a dam in Rybrook, about 10 miles to the south here, where the dam controls, that's D-A-M, controls, were open to the internet. And this hacker basically went in and, among other things, it controlled the sluices at the dam so he could open it up and let the water out. And that's what I mean about, when you really know how the sausage is made, it's like, okay.
So what is Google dorking?
That's using Google search with its advanced search criteria to access things that you might not think should be available openly on the internet. Google dorking.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, I admit to that being a new one. It was Tuesday or Wednesday's Wall Street Journal on the front page, and I read that story and it's like, yeah, I've got to get Google dorking into PM Disrupt.
So
mission accomplished.
There's some other fake stories and real stories that were, everything lives on in the internet, and it's like it comes in waves. Yes. So you hear a story and somebody says, this is new, and it's like, well, no, that happened like 10 years ago.
Yes.
It was 10 years ago, but I think there was one of the major television broadcast networks did a whole summer campaign where it's new to you.
Yes. yeah. Or, I mean, the number of things I fall for because I don't check things or don't check dates. My recent failure was Davy Jones and the Monkeys time. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. You tweet it and everybody's there, oh, that's a shame, or it's like, yeah, 3 years ago. That's why, is the website liveordead.com, something like that. Right up there with Snopes. Before you tweet somebody's obituary, check the date line. Or check to see if they're still alive. But
Google had a fake story that didn't quite.
This morning, yeah, they had something, what they call mic drop button that would add, a GIF or GIF, depending upon your religion, to an outgoing mail, and it was a little April Fool's prank, which Google does with a regular basis. The problem with this one, and it's a lesson for interface developers, is they put the button to incorporate that into your outgoing email right where the normal send an archive button is, which 80% of people click when they're sending a message. So your muscle memory says, click to send it, and it's like, oops, I didn't mean to send that. Yeah. So they very quickly, and most of you, I was still sleeping when it happened this morning, and I got up early, but early this morning, and they quickly realized their mistake, that they were blowing up the size of outgoing messages. People were sending business correspondence with these frivolous things attached, and said, yeah, maybe we overdid it this time.
Well, Twitter caught me with that. When they added moments to their web interface, they put it where notifications is. And I'm used to going, there was home and then notifications. So I go to notifications. Well, no, it's not notification. Now it's moments.
Yeah. When you muck with your interface, and that's a pet peeve. Yeah, people who change interfaces for the sake of change. And this is something, I go back to the early days of graphical user interfaces, Windows 3.1, and before.
When we used to call it WYSIWYG.
Yes, what you see is what you get. Or Icky Wizzy, which was my favorite variant of that. I'll know it when I see it. Yeah. But anyhow, that the value of an interface has as much, if not more, to do about its consistency than it does its intuitiveness.
Right.
Don't mess with things where people have trained muscle memory.
Speaking of things that you don't want to mess with, Apple and the government.
the ongoing story that has taken an interesting twist since last.
If you haven't been paying attention.
Well, or even if you have.
Right. Well, but if you missed, government.
The government may have overplayed its hand when it went after Apple, saying we want to crack into the iPhone, and figured who could object, because it's the San Bernardino killers. And I think the government perhaps was surprised by, the adamance with which the technology community, of whom Apple's not always the favorite member of the community, everybody rallied the wagons and said, we support Apple. And so the government backed off. And then lo and behold, in the last week or so, the government has said, guess what? We got in anyhow. And withdrew the court application.
And that wasn't published on April 1st. So.
Yeah. But this is one, there are two ways of looking at this, both with some delicious twists. Way number one is maybe the government really did get in, and what's happened now, Apple is in the uncomfortable position of saying, ooh, maybe we've got a problem with our security.
How did you get in?
Yeah, how did you get in? And interestingly, there are a whole bunch of responsible guidelines for how you handle situations like this.
Right.
And part of the responsible guidelines is you notify the vendor so they can go fix their holes.
Right. Well, there's a whole, and just to take a step back, there's a whole industry or hobby or whatever you want to, around identifying security holes, and there are accepted procedures for notifying vendors and stuff like that.
Yes, and one of which is you notify the vendor before going public with it generally, so they can fix the hole.
Right, that's sort of being a good citizen.
Yes, the government is not being a good citizen, and they're saying, we got in and we like being able to get in.
Well, people are people, and corporations are people. Our government's people.
Yeah.
They're by the people.
Yes, well.
For the people, but are they people?
And I'm
can
sure.
They be good citizens? Can governments be good citizens?
And we'll end up with a 4-4 Supreme Court ruling on that one until we get another jurist on the court. But that aside, it's interesting. So, the other side of the shoe, Apple's now going to the government, please tell us. Now, there's an alternate scenario. And I'm the conspiracy theorist, and I'm not generally that way. But my alternate scenario is there's collusion going on here between the government and Apple. And the collusion, at the end of the day, Apple, any responsible manufacturer feels bad when the bad guys are using their technology for nefarious purposes.
I think there's a plausible deniability thing going on.
That the government hasn't hacked its way in. How do we know they've really done it, other than they said they've done it? It's not like they arrested 17 more people in San Bernardino.
Can we just look it up on Snopes?
The
government.
The government's not. They're just saying we did it.
Right.
What evidence do we have that they did it? We don't have any. What message are they sending, therefore, to the bad guys? Because the good guys don't care about it. None of us bought our phones, for the most part, based on the security of the platform. That's a 1/10% solution.
Right. The rest of us, that's the market share of BlackBerry.
Yes. And declining. They just announced, they missed their revenue target by about
it's like 15-20%.
Bad miss. Yeah. But this is kind of like the Generalissimo Franco.
Right. But the people are making their mobile device decisions based on security.
Yeah. But the bad guys now have reason to be concerned. So if before they thought they could use their apples with impunity, now they're thinking, are these really safe, or do we need to use some other form of communication? And at the very least, it will disrupt their patterns, force them to think about other kinds of communications, and in general, leave some doubt and some inefficient solutions. And so, until we see evidence of this one, and I don't, it's one of those things. I really do I'm not a conspiracy theory believer, but there are a whole bunch of things we don't see the truth in this. And when you imagine, when you think about the motivations of the various players here, either there really is a security hole, in which case Apple's going to spend a lot of time and money and effort to actually go fix it, or there isn't a security hole. The government has, come up with a scenario that meets their requirements, sows some doubt in the minds of whom they want to sow doubt. And Apple is saying, we'll play along with this. We'll even feign outrage and say, you need to show us this information because we need to fix it.
You don't think that there's a chance Apple, played ball under the table in terms of allowing access?
I don't think so, because I think that to do that, unless there's a security hole, is the considerable effort Apple. No, I think Apple really is, I take Tim Cook at his word about, the sincerity in trying to develop a secure platform. And since this whole thing, we've seen, for instance, Amazon on its, Fire tablet devices, they had said, we're going to, open up security, and they said, no, we need to make these secure. I think the industry generally recognizes, it's back to this sluice gates at the dam, and the discussion we had last month. if we don't have absolute security in what we're doing, there are a whole bunch of things that we're doing today on the internet that we won't be able to do going forward.
Right. Wow, that was doom and gloom.
No. You know, I'm optimistic. As I said, I believe the security is that secure, and we will be able to. So, you know, I'm optimistic. You know, doom and gloom. You know, my 10-year prediction is we are going back to the abacus era. April Fools.
We should have opened with that story.
The
return of the abacus as a high tech disruptive technology.
I actually
unlimited battery life.
No, I'll have to look. I've got a slide rule app on my phone. I wonder if there must be an abacus app.
But no, but unlimited battery life. If you have an abacus,
yes.
Data retention.
Yeah,
just don't tilt it.
Yeah, you know, epoxy it in place. Yeah, that's your archive.
Right. All right. So we have a happy birthday for
two happy birthdays.
Two happy birthdays.
Yeah. The little one is Twitter. Happy 10th.
Happy 10th.
You know, and our favorite whipping child, you know, has no April Fools. Apparently made the decision that making tweets be 10,000 characters is a stupid idea. I think the first rational decision Twitter management has made in 7 years. It's like, there's a good reason why things are 140 characters.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's an arbitrary number based on technical.
It's not an arbitrary number.
Well, it was based on technical, but meaning it could easily be 135 or 150, but 10,000 is a big difference.
Yeah, well, but the reason why, early on, Twitter, a lot of its stuff was using text messaging infrastructure. And text messages, I believe, are limited to 160 characters. And Twitter figured, they need some number of characters for header information, for the messages to parse it, so they'll make the tweets 140.
I think it was the whole message was 255, and there was a whole bunch of other data that, in terms of the entire packet.
Was that it? No, I thought the length of a text message is shorter than that.
Because
it was defined by a text message.
A lower level limitation is it was like one packet or something. Somebody look that up and tweet at us.
Yeah. And the other birthday. Yeah. Today, Apple turns 40.
That is an unbelievable number.
40 years. Yeah.
Makes me feel old.
Well,
but it should make you feel older.
Or it makes me feel young. Yeah, or something. Because I started my life in technology 37 years ago with an Apple II, an Apple II Plus.
I had a 2E.
Yeah, it's amazing where we've, when I reflect back on those days, the standard Apple II was 48K or 64K. And as I've discussed before, in 1980, I upgraded my Apple II to 640K with a 576K memory upgrade for $10,000. Just this week, I upgraded, my phone with a 64 gig micro SD card that cost me $12, including shipping. It's been a long way.
And remember Apple Works?
Yeah. There are a whole bunch of things. Or somewhere in a box, I still got the memo I wrote in the early 1980s defending the purchase of the Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
For $9,995 as a bargain at the time because of its bundled software, because of its hardware specs. The $10,000 for a personal computer in 1982 was a great bargain. By contrast, the laptop I bought a few months ago has 8 gig of RAM, 128 gig SD, solid state drive, a 1920 by whatever video screen and so on for about $500. Which,
wow.
Yeah, we've come a long way, baby.
Well, and at the same time, another story that you have marked here, which I think is related, is perhaps the end of Moore's Law.
Yes. Although, as I was kind of researching the story, somebody came out with a funny corollary to Moore's Law.
Well, first of all, rest in peace, Andy Grove.
Andy Grove.
And yes, reject.
Yes. Yeah, unless it's part of a conspiracy theory. But Andy Grove, former CEO of Intel and one of the titans of Silicon Valley, and by all measures, a fabulous CEO, author of Only the Paranoid Survive. Just because they think you think somebody's coming after you doesn't mean they're not. I butchered that one. But yeah. But anyhow, the corollary to Moore's Law, which says the number of transistors doubles at roughly every 12 to 18 months. The corollary to Moore's Law is the number of people predicting the end to Moore's Law doubles every 12 to 18 months. Right. Yeah, but the answer is we are really approaching some fundamental levels of physics.
I cannot change the laws of physics, Doctor. There's my one and only poor Scottish quote from Star Trek.
Yeah, but
I cannot change the laws of physics.
Well, you can or come up with the other more dilithium crystals.
Oh, look, a keyboard.
Yeah,
great.
But transistors at this point. Think about this one. There are 100 atoms across. I mean, we are really down to subatomic levels. A transistor is 100 atoms across, and what's happening now is as we try and compress that distance, several things come into play. One, there are some really bizarre phenomena at that subatomic level where transistors at their basic level contain a 1 or a 0. What happens is some of these atoms start leaping across boundaries, and thus the ability of the 1 or 0 to be reliably 1 or 0 is compromised because these.
I just in my mind pictured a Pixar movie with transistors, and then the atoms like, I'm gonna jump.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. You're gonna move to Hollywood.
I'm gonna pitch it. Yeah. I have whole treatment on it. Yeah. And I have some people.
Don't quit your day job.
No.
No. But we're down to fundamental laws of physics, and what's also happened is as we are miniaturizing things, these smaller and smaller form factors aren't more energy efficient because we're having to do things because of heat generation and other constraints. And when you're talking about putting them in mobile devices, being less energy efficient is not a good thing.
Right.
Now, do not necessarily conclude that, the whatever 40-year ride we've had because of Moore's Law, this party is coming to an end, and there are some, amazing, I just marvel at what scientists even conceive of, let alone actually do, to try and address this where they're doing things, it's like, okay, if we can't squeeze them closer together, maybe we can stack them higher, and when you're talking about 100 atoms across, how do you, well, the answer to how you do that is you build a fab a fabrication plant that these days costs $15 billion to do. If you wonder why there aren't a lot of companies in the semiconductor space.
The barrier for entry is pretty high.
Yeah, and if that's the capital required, I don't see a lot of VCs. Oh, you got a better way, you need $15 billion, where do I sign up? Yeah, I'll give you a couple of million if you can figure out where you're going to get the rest. So, but it's one of those things, while the existing Moore's Law may be nearing an end, there are other approaches that people are looking at that, the optimist among us, and you want me to be happy, Moore's Law is going to have enough, for the rest of my lifetime, it's going to continue. We're going to have amazing advances in capabilities.
And pushing the laws of physics.
Right at the boundary.
So right next to economist is physicist. I think on the job titles that would be important.
In your former world on Wall Street, I love the fact that the speed of light has become a competitive advantage. There are a whole bunch of people who are trying to get their systems like closer and closer to the stock exchange, because the transfer of trading information is so valuable that knowing the last trade, milli, micro, nano, whatever second before the next person is a competitive advantage. The speed of light is a barrier to performance. And those people are probably heartened by some recent discoveries that say the speed of light may not be the absolute maximum speed that can be achieved.
That's right. It's not just a good idea, it's the law.
It's the law.
But we're on a hardware roll. I love the story that came out of Britain.
Yes.
This was really
amazing foresight. Bully for them.
Cheerio.
Yeah, and pip pip and all that.
Yes.
So Simon, perhaps you can give us some other Britishisms. But the British government, with the backing of a BBC fund, also part of the government,
right,
is giving every 11-year-old in Britain what they call a BBC microbit, which is the equivalent of a Raspberry Pi, those of you who are familiar with it. And it's a very small computer system on a chip, very inexpensive. And in this particular instance, the device contains a variety of sensors, 25 LEDs, 2 programmable buttons, and Bluetooth. Power can be provided from a couple of off-chip sources. And the whole idea is, if the future depends upon people who can actually invent things and code things and so on and so forth, that if we give every 11-year-old one of these, we're going to not only unleash a wave of innovation, but be building an educated workforce that has the next generation skills. And this is one I still, don't get me on the rant about the American educational system, because that'll take more time than we have left.
And I'm deep in it, so
yes.
Don't even get me started.
Yes.
I was up late last night. I had a conversation with somebody where when your kids are young, you control their bedtime. When kids get older, school controls their bedtime.
Yes.
And that just drives me nuts.
Yes. And their waking time at insanely early, scientifically proven to be bad times.
Right, as my kids remind me all the time. The study shows high school kids need to sleep later.
Yes, yeah, and study shows if you do that independently, the school will mark you as absent. Yeah, but my rant is, I learned French in high school. That's not, at the time I learned it, it's a useful skill when I was in Montreal, with my parents, and the maid came to change some things, and I was able to tell her, no, we'll be back, dans une heure. And I remember little bits of my French, which have been useful generally when checking into hotels or at restaurants. Not a broadly useful skill compared to, let's say, for instance, you taught kids today JavaScript, and I'm all for a language requirement in schools. Let's let there be computer languages that they can learn that are more valuable than French or Latin.
There are more places to use JavaScript than French.
Yes, many more, with higher economic potential.
All right.
Yeah, but, bravo, I think this is a brilliant, foresight, and it's not like, this is some, nation of a couple of 100,000 people where, this is a significant cost investment, and
Have you played with Raspberry Pi?
I have not. My coding days, I took a 6502 assembly language programming course, which was the language of the Apple II, and it was taught by the head of program for Atari.
6502, yep.
And at the end of the class, the reason why I was teaching the class, he needed people to program video games, and I did well in the class, and he offered me a job at around $50,000 a year at a time when I was making less than half that. And amazingly enough, I turned it down, because what I understood is before the movie came out, what it was like to be in the matrix. Because when you're down at that level of the machine, you are in the matrix. And I would do bizarre things at the time. I still do it. At the time, I was living in the city, and I would walk down the street and look at a sequence of license plates and think of them as opcodes. And what would this sequence of car, a very weird world you live in. And so no, my coding days are long over. But, I raised offspring. My son is now programming for Indeed.com, the #1 job site on the internet.
He's working for Indeed.
Yeah,
Very cool.
He was an aerospace and mechanical engineering major who decided, software skills are useful to have.
So you're telling me that Indeed is now employing rocket scientists to do their coding?
At least one, yeah.
That could be a trend.
Yes, one data point indeed makes a trend. To we analysts.
All right, we're coming to my favorite part of the set of our show, where we get to our
regular features.
Regular features.
Or recurring features.
Recurring features.
Fun features.
I'm going to start with a kudo, particularly as it relates to my focus on customer service. And we talk here about customer service all the time. And
yeah, this is another, man bites dog kind of story. We don't often have good things to say about this class of vendor.
So I had a problem with my Verizon Fios, and so of course, not wanting to make a phone call or email or chat, I tweeted. I tweeted out, and very quickly, someone from Verizon gets back to me, replies, can I help you? And then says, would you mind if I DM'd you? And I said no, and they DM'd me, and they DM'd me a link that said that based on what you're asking me, it's a little more complicated. Can we get on a chat? And I said, fine. I understand that you want to have the right channel for the communication. Sends me a link to a chat. When I click on the chat link, it opens up a chat that says, from social, with the context of the conversation I had.
You mean you didn't have to start over?
I didn't have to start over. And then the person gets on the chat and says, I understand you're having, it was like getting, I can't get coverage all over my house with the Wi-Fi. I understand, here's your problem, and here's the solution.
Buy another router, which will be capitalized.
No, they actually send me a free Wi-Fi
booster. Okay, yeah.
But it's not the resolution. It's the fact that we've been talking about for a long time is don't lose content.
Yeah.
You should know what you know about it.
Yes. Pet peeve is repeating the same thing to the third rep, or they have you go through, punch in your account number, punch in your this, and the first thing the person gets on the phone is they ask you for your name and account number.
And so on the chat, the person basically said, "Hi, Mr. Bergson, and here's what we can do for you." And you could have picked my job off the phone.
Now, one thing that would be interesting to me is, I don't know what your cloud score is. I imagine you've got a reasonable one, and whether the experience you got is representative.
But forget the.
But even still.
No, take the response time. The fact that they were able to
preserve context.
Preserve context has nothing to do with my stature or whatever.
Yes.
That was technology, that they're getting the fact that they need to preserve the experience.
Well, it's a sad statement that in 2016, we've got to grant this a kudo. Because it really should be an expectation.
The habit is you're headed in the right direction.
Yes, yeah, or it's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah, 2009 call, they want their solution back.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, so
actually, I want to do this one.
Oh, okay, go for it.
An app you love, and this is one. I've flown around 4 million miles in my life, so travel apps are particularly interesting to me. I'm a member of what's known as Global Entry, so that when you land at JFK,
at my appointment.
Yeah, Yeah, instead of waiting on a very long line, you go up to a kiosk, scan your fingerprints, and it's, welcome back to America, Mr. Yarmus. And when he says he's got his appointment, to get that, you have to meet with a Customs and Border Patrol agent who basically says, are you a terrorist? If
then you're looking right. It's like if someone asks you if you're God, you say,
yeah.
Are you a terrorist?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Whatever records they look at. My interview was very, very, very brief because if I've flown 4 million miles and not done anything suspicious, either I'm establishing really, really, really deep cover or I'm safe. But anyhow, global entry is great, but it was restricted to a few airports. There's now an app available, for iOS and Android, not BlackBerry, not Windows, called Mobile Passport. And when you're on the airplane and they give you the blue form?
Yeah, I hate that form.
Yes, you never have to, these airports, Seattle, San Francisco, San Jose, Dallas, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, and Chicago O'Hare. What this app does is you fill it out, at your leisure, offline, on the plane.
Sorry, I didn't notice a New York airport there.
No, because New York's got global entry.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, this is for non-global entry airports. JFK and Newark both have global entry.
Right.
What the app does, you fill out the blue form in advance, fill in all your information, and you've had to register your app with your passport information and so on. When you land at those airports and connect to Wi-Fi or your cellular connection, it transmits the information to customs, gives you a barcode in response, go up to one of their kiosks, show the agent, scan the barcode, and you're through. You don't have to wait in line for the paper. It's an expedited process.
You find a pen.
Yeah.
Everybody's always sharing the pen on the plane.
Yes. Yeah. You can do it all electronic.
Find something to lean on.
Yeah.
Because it's always after you put the tray table up, and then I got to stop the phone.
Yeah. Or they're also and I just came across this app in the last couple of days, and it's, while I've got global entry and most of my ports of entry are JFK or Newark, that's one of those apps, it amazes me that, wow, government's doing something to actually expedite processing. What a concept, using the technology.
Oh, you know what? I just saw the security update, and you have to talk about that because
yeah. So, and let's see, there's the sign, and
you can unlock it. Yeah.
Unlock it with, and presumably, we've all got, unique fingerprint, therefore, short of checking off my finger, their method, you would think. Researchers, based using capacitive ink, have found a way to spoof fingerprints. So you thought it was secure. They've got a way of lifting them, using them, creating them in 15 minutes. They're in. Yeah, so much for biometrics. Yeah.
All right. How about a shame on you?
Yes, from a former Kudo. Yeah. If you remember a couple of months back, I talked about one of the cruise lines, Royal Caribbean, opening up free internet connection for, I think it was Facebook and Snapchat and on a couple of the social apps. So you could market for them by putting your wonderful pictures up online without their usurious internet fees. Only kidding. They decided, no, we've made a big enough investment. I'm sure what they actually discovered is that most people only use their internet connections for these kinds of things. And if they made it available for free, there went the revenue, there went the justification for upgrading their internet investment infrastructure. And so they said, only kidding, you're going to have to pay. Now, those people who booked cruises prior to this change, they're graciously honoring that commitment, but.
It makes no sense. I want, if I'm a cruise company, I want everyone posting on Facebook how much fun they're having. Post a picture of what you just did. Post a picture of your feet, because everybody has to have that obligatory. I'm sitting on the pool, on the deck, and here's my feet, and there's the ocean.
And an umbrella.
Right. I want, that's like free.
Yes.
Free advertising.
Yes. Although they could be of the opinion, it's like most people are so addicted to these things, they'll pay for the services anyhow. So, I don't know if it's.
I think that's short-term thinking.
I don't know. I think they may actually be shrewd, because I know, although I must admit, I'm disappointed, bordering on distressed, that neither of my kids has posted anything despite having been on the boat for 5.5 days at this point.
You have not trained them well.
Or I've trained them very well.
Or more troubling is maybe they just haven't eaten anything.
or more likely is with using privacy privileges, they're tired of me clicking like on everything, and they excluded me from being able to see those posts.
That's a rookie parent mistake.
I've learned that lesson.
It's a rookie parent mistake. Yes. You do not like everything they do. You pick and choose.
Yes, or the even bigger rookie mistake was there was a period of time, no longer, Sam, when I had notifications set. So anytime my daughter posted something on Facebook, I'd get a notification. I happened to be with her when she posted a couple of things on Facebook, and she noticed the close correlation between her clicking post and my phone vibrating. And she's there, "Are you stalking me?" So I learned the lesson and turned off that notification. Yeah.
Great. All right. How about you have another shame on you. This one is like, it's pervasive.
Yes.
Apps do this all the time.
Yes.
And it's just drives me nuts.
There's a website called Founders Dating that's not actually a dating site, in the like
romantic
looking
sense.
For love kind of site, for founders of companies looking for other like-minded people to help found their company and so on. And it was one of those things where there was a flurry of activity with invites and so on. And so, wow, I got several invites. I thought, it's popular amongst my friends. I'll take a look at it. I did so. And what they did, I'm sure somewhere in there in 2-point font, in a part of the screen I never scrolled to, below the terms of privacy and so on, there was a notification that said, "We are going to spam your entire LinkedIn address book with invites to this service." And sure enough, I inadvertently spammed all of my friends, and any provider that thinks this is a good approach to marketing.
Well, but I'll challenge that and say, well, but so many people are doing it. Maybe it does work, even though we don't like it.
The question, let's define work. Does it work in the short term where more people look at the site, and perhaps sign up for it? The answer is probably yes. Does it give you any faith in their ability to provide a useful service? Or in this instance, once I discovered what they were doing, it's like, okay, this is bad practice. I'm not getting value out of the site at all immediately, and because of their stupid practices, they get no leeway, and I delete it right away.
Well, look, both of us, I'm sure that's the case. I'm just curious that, look, I get.
It's not a unicorn.
No, but LinkedIn does the same thing. I get LinkedIn connection requests from people who I know just signed up for LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because it's the child of a friend of mine who's going off to college, and somebody said, "Oh, you should get on LinkedIn."
Yes.
And there's a thing in LinkedIn where it says, "Would you like to add your address book?"
Yes. Yeah. And the default is select all, and it's easy.
Right.
In the small print it says skip this step, and the big print it says okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. LinkedIn is an egregious user of this.
But I
And,
get so much value at LinkedIn. It's hard to.
I don't know. I don't get that much value out of it, but it's also, just because it might be useful. But, they may be the exception. Yes, it works for them. We get pissed off at what they do.
Right.
But, okay, it's the one. Founders dating is not the one. Yeah.
So no dating, founders dating. I got it. All right. Interesting factoid.
So, a lot of us, play these free games with in-app purchases, and it turns out that not a lot of us spend money, but those that do really spend money. So about half of all in-game revenue
50%.
is accounted for by 0.19%. 0.2% of the users of games account for half the revenue.
Half the revenue.
Yeah.
That's insane. Wow, they really must be. They really want to. They're like, it's like the whales in Vegas, right?
Oh yeah. No, and those are the ones. Half of the revenue, 0.2%. Those of you know who you are. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Have you made in-game purchases?
No, I don't think I've ever made an in-game purchase.
I've made very, very few. And actually,
my kids have. They've asked me and say, "Can I do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, my kids are older; they don't ask. Yeah, and they're spending their own money, so they don't have to.
That's true.
Yeah, and my propensity to do it has gone up a little bit because there's this Google survey thing that's pretty amusing. They're incenting me to give away even more of my information in exchange for Google Play credits. So by answering all of these surveys, I've got about $15 in Google Play credits that I can use for some of these things.
But you're playing with house money though.
Yes.
Your in-app purchase.
Exactly.
Okay.
Although it does show to me, Google still has a long way, for all the information they've got about us, and we were talking about this beforehand.
Right.
And they know a lot. They don't know everything. I got a recent survey asking about my purchase habits for hair care products. Hello. Yeah, 0. I mean, all of this stuff. I've laughed in the past. I check into a hotel room. And with all the information about me, they give me a fruit basket. Do I look like a fruit eater? Google's asking me. So those of us who are concerned about giving, it's like, either that or they're trying to throw me, like, we really know everything about him, but let's give him, some false confidence and ask him about his hair care products.
That's pretty funny. Another one of our favorite whipping child. Your next interesting factoid.
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah. Not a favorite whipping child. We find out how much internet bandwidth.
Right. Not a whipping, but they're a
great service.
They're amazing and it's a high impact in terms of, but in terms of the impact on the cost of internet bandwidth and stuff like that.
Yes, but the interesting thing is, if you've noticed things you are looking for aren't there anymore, it's because they're not. Their selection of movies is down by 1/3 from their high point, and their selection of TV shows is down by 1/4. There's a lot more competition. There are people bidding for, rights. There are people who don't, want to play with Netflix, feeling they've got too much power. And the net result is, Netflix has less of other people's content, even while they're looking to build out more of their own content. And interestingly, there are some Netflix power users that Netflix has discovered when they release a series, in its entirety, watch the entire series and conclude the viewing of that series within seconds of the total time it would take. I mean, they're sitting there waiting, much as like we're waiting to buy Springsteen tickets.
Right.
They're waiting for Netflix to release that video, sequence, and then binge watch the entire thing. They also choke their video, in a way that, this is always an interesting discussion. There are those internet providers who, in the past, violating net neutrality, have slowed down Netflix connections to the home so you don't get a great experience over, your cable modem connection.
Right.
But what they've done is, for AT&T and Verizon Wireless, they reduce the quality of the feed so that down to about 600 kilobits per second. And the reason why they do that is, those of us who are on metered data plans, watching a single 2-hour movie is about 6 gig of data.
We should get into this.
One our favorite authors, I reference being in the Matrix, will know an answer fate. This is like a their social media make us happier, or and Gibson was, at least where I saw this reference, it's attributed to him, which leads me to believe maybe he didn't say it, but if he didn't, he should have, could have. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you're not, in fact, just surrounding yourself with assholes.
And on that note,
you're bringing me down.
On that note, so this has been Pardon My Disruption, Alan Berkson and Jonathan Yarmus. We're here the second Friday of every month.
Except when we're not.
Except when we're not. Our next show will be on Friday, May 13th, Friday the 13th.
Join us here at the Stanford Innovation Center.
Or online on YouTube. And we will have some probably baseball to talk about with that. And I can't tell you how excited about that. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.